Good evening and welcome to ANM News, and this is Avijit Nandi Majumdar with the hottest topic of the day. We are covering various aspects today since morning, from Indo-China conflict in eastern Ladakh to what is happening in various parts of the country. But right now, going back to Indo-China, we have with us the president of the Tibetan government in exile, Dr. Lobsang Sanjay. Welcome to ANM News, Dr. Sanjay.
Thank you.
And I hope in this coronavirus situation, you are safe, sound, and absolutely fully fit. We pray to God that for your fitness.
Yes, I saw even though the coronavirus originated in China, even though our parents fled Tibet for the last 60 years, still we are not safe, from the, coronavirus which originated in China. Having said that, we're still active. Our movement is active. We are standing standing on our toes and dealing with coronavirus the best way possible.
Absolutely. Now, coming straight to the issue of India-China conflict, especially as it evolved, as it developed in eastern Ladakh. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has clearly specified China to be an expansionist. And this is for all people all around, countries all around to see. And now Australia has also done extremely hostile towards China. A lot of other countries are also falling in place, in tune with India. You have always mentioned that Tibet is the core issue. Can you please elaborate on that?
Yes, for hundreds of years, in fact, for thousands of years, it was always a border between India and Tibet. There was not even an inch of land border between India and China. 3,500 long kilometers was always between Tibet and India. And it was a peaceful border, and Tibet was a zone of peace, and Tibet acted as the buffer between India and China. They never met. So for hundreds of years, it was very peaceful. Suddenly, it's not peaceful. The Chinese army's incursions in Ladakh and Arunachal and, from Sikkim, everywhere, it's increasing 200 to 300 to 400 every year. So all these incursions and the tensions and the recent death of 20 Indian Jawans, all this happened after China occupied Tibet. So if you restore the historical status of Tibet as the zone of peace, as the buffer zone, there will be peace. So all this happened because of Tibet, and solution can be found only after you deal with the issue of Tibet. So that's why I said Tibet is the main issue.
Absolutely. Here, I just want to ask you a question. Why do you think the United Nations is not interfering in this crisis? Because it's been happening for quite some time, and you have been demanding, and a very legitimate demand that you have. So why isn't UN interfering in this matter?
India helped China get the seat at the UN Security Council. So UN Security Council, 5 members have veto power. Anything to do with the United Nations, the 5 veto power holders decide. So each time Tibet issue is raised, China always wields its veto and then prevent it from even a debate at the United Nations. So that's why. Having said that, recently an unprecedented thing happened. That is 50 human rights experts from 12 or so countries raised the issue of Tibet, raised the issue of China, and they all said, we want to visit China and Tibet to investigate the human rights conditions of the Tibetan people. In the last 10 years, China allowed only 5 experts to visit China and none of them to Tibet. So normally you allow any number of human rights experts to come to any country and to investigate. China didn't allow, and far less they didn't allow them to go to Tibet. So even in the United Nations, at the human rights level, the discussion is taking place. But historically, UN did pass 3 resolutions in 1959, 61, and 65 on Tibet, even calling for right to self-determination of the Tibetan people. But UN General Assembly is like, China's parliament, National People's Congress. They just pass a resolution. They have no effect or impact as such. It's the UN Security Council that decides. So China sits on it, and then can decide any issue to discuss, to debate or not. And on Tibet, they prevent from even having a discussion at the United Nations.
Absolutely. Here, we just got an information about yesterday. You were just cross-checking on that information that there was a signature campaign to remove China from the permanent seat of the Security Council, UN Security Council. I don't know how successful will that be, but at least a move have been made from certain countries, a European country. That's what was trolling on the internet, and it also came to us. And there's a signature campaign to remove China from the UN Security Council. But having said that, how do you think? I mean, you have been derived of everything from your homeland. You are taken human rights abuses in your homeland. So how do you think, what do you think will be the next course of action for you?
You know, I think the countries that practices democracy, like India and European countries, Australia and Japan, all should come together and form an alliance and say, China should give basic human rights to Chinese people, to Tibetan people. The religious freedom of the Tibetan people should be respected, and cultural rights of the Tibetan people, environmental rights of the Tibet and Tibetan people should be respected and protected. All this should be called because China, as a member of the international community, are obligated to follow United Nations Charter. And basic human rights is guaranteed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So if China wants to be a responsible member of the international community, they must behave and act as a responsible member and respect international norms. So that's what the message should be by all the democrats, including India, to the Chinese government.
You are a true representative of the people of Tibet. I mean, the Tibetans look up to you, look up to your members, your government. You represent Tibet. So why do you think China does not want to talk to you? Why don't they want to initiate a dialogue with you? What is stopping an international country like China? Because this is a dispute, the major dispute.
Yes, because the Chinese government know for a fact that, Tibetan administration is the legitimate spokesperson of the Tibetan people. If Tibetans in Tibet were asked to have a referendum or asked to have a vote to choose between a Tibetan leader and Chinese leader, you know for a fact that they will vote to choose a Tibetan leader, right? So that's why, they lack legitimacy. They have illegally occupied Tibet, and they are repressing Tibetan people. That's why 154 Tibetans have committed self-harm. They have burned themselves to protest against the occupation of Tibet. So Chinese government know that they lack legitimacy, they lack validation by the Tibetan people, hence they don't want to talk to us. Because given a choice, Tibetan people will choose us over Chinese leaders.
Absolutely. And secondly, another thing, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi has described China as an expansionist, when you talk about, they always equate Tibet with Kashmir. Now, Indian government has always spoken to Hurriyat leaders and people who won popular mandate in Kashmir. So in Kashmir and Tibet, don't you feel cannot be equated together?
Now, we don't want to comment on internal matters of India, normally, because we are guests here, so we should respect the internal matters of the host country. Having said that, you're right. I think India or any democratic country will normally talk to the other side and trying to find a peaceful solution. His Holiness Dalai Lama and Tibetan people, we have been saying, we are willing to have dialogue with the Chinese government to solve the issue of Tibet peacefully. Let's find a win-win proposition. Yeah, it's win for you, win for us, and let's end repression of Tibetan people and basic freedom be given to Tibet and Tibetan people. We are ready. But the Chinese government, so far has not extended their hand, and hence the envoys of the Dalai Lama, they have not been able to meet with the Chinese counterparts. So it's unfortunate. Normally, if there's a dispute, two sides should come and talk and solve it. We are willing, but the Chinese government has not shown interest so far.
That's a major development, there's a major issue that you just mentioned, that you are willing, but the Chinese government is not willing so far, has not shown their willingness so far. Now, are you going to approach the other countries? I'm sure you've already spoken to different world leaders. You have already appealed to different world leaders. Now that Australia, United States, France, Spain, everybody is now has opened up to warmed up to the idea that Chinese are expansionists, and they are just expand. There are disputes all over in Vietnam, in South China Sea, again with Philippines, with Japan. So now, do you think this is the right time to push for the Tibetan cause?
You know, we've been doing this for the last 60 years. So our movement has always gone up and down, depending on the international mood and the international, trajectory. But this is one thing. But as far as we are concerned, we keep making efforts. Our solidarity is strong. Our idea. So, as far as we are concerned, we keep, we keep going the path, the non-violent path, the path of dialogue that we choose. Yes, in the international community now, America has, urged the Chinese government to solve the issue of Tibet. European Union is sending the message, right? Australia is sending the message. And you're right, India also has a role to play. Because in 1956, when His Holiness Dalai Lama came to India, he went back to Tibet with the assurance from the Indian government. They said the Chinese government has agreed to continue to grant or continue with the genuine autonomy of the Tibetan people. No violence will be, used against Tibetan people. But, 2 years later, violence was used, and more than 1 million Tibetans have died because of violence and the hunger and, and the death and all that. So because of this assurance given to India, and the largest number of Tibetans in exile are in India, Indian government has a role to play. Indian government and all other leaders around the world will urge the Chinese government have dialogue and solve the issue of Tibet peacefully.
That's fantastic, because one thing that you also mentioned, that you're not looking for a military solution, you're not looking for force. It's a non-violence movement, and this is probably the only non-violence movements towards sovereignty in the whole world. So how hopeful are you?
We are in land of Mahatma Gandhi, so we follow Ahimsa, and Parampavan Dalai Lama ji, His Holiness, also, it's a big advocate of non-violence and compassion and kindness, right? So, you should always remain hopeful. Ultimately, we do believe the truth will prevail, non-violence will prevail, and Ahimsa will prevail. Like India, God is freedom from the British Raj. Similarly, Tibetans will, restore their basic freedom pretty soon.
Absolutely, Adley. And you continue to do the way that you have been doing, or you formulated a different kind of a strategy in your future?
We will continue the non-violent way. That's why, I'm sitting in front of the Potala Palace. This was in the main office and the residence of His Holiness Dalai Lama. I'm, next to the Tibetan flag, and our dream is that His Holiness Dalai Lama will return to Lhasa, the capital city, and sit on the Potala Palace and bless his Tibetan people sooner than later. Having said the media people also, that, now after the Galwan Valley unfortunate incident, everybody is saying, oh, what is happening? Why Chinese army are coming to the border of India and entering the Indian territory? But the Indian media, Indian intellectuals, the Indian government also keeps saying it's China-India's border, right? As long as you say India-China border, Chinese army will come and say, enter your territory, and you say, why are you entering? Because Chinese army will say, you are saying this is China's border, I'm coming to my border, this is my land. But the Indian side will say, no, other side is your land, not this side, right? Once you say it's Indo-China border, you give them the legitimacy and validation to enter your territory. So if you make the Tibet issue a disputed territory, the map of Tibet a disputed territory, when they come to your border, you can say, you have entered the Tibet illegally, Tibet territory illegally. Your border is not here. It was always an Indo-Tibet border, and it is Indo-Tibet border, and your border is China-Tibet border, which is thousands of miles away. So I think, because the media at least should start calling Indo-Tibet border and show the map of Tibet, full map of Tibet, all 3 provinces of Tibet. So that is how you educate your people, because often the promises made to you will be broken, like the promises made to us by the Chinese government was broken, and we got betrayed and our country is occupied, right? So these are the lessons we must learn.
You have been betrayed before, and just the same manner that our forces have been betrayed at Galwan Valley. So what can you, if you can just name the 3 provinces of Tibet which you mentioned near to Galwan Valley?
Yes, traditionally, the definition of Tibet is Uzang, Kham, and Amdo. It's a huge territory. But the Chinese definition is Tibet Autonomous Region, which is only, half or little less than half of the territory. So you must show the map of Tibet, the full map. If you Google Tibetan map, if you enter Tibetan administration's website, you'll get the full map. And then show the map of India-Tibet border. Then they're coming into Tibet itself becomes illegal, you see. So this is how you should educate the Indian masses, so they not forget the Tibet issue. Because for 60 years, many people thought if you don't talk about Tibet, if you hide Tibet, maybe people will forget, then it will create peace between India and China. Now with the border incursion and unfortunate death of 20 Indian Jawans, it has come up. So India wants to keep it quiet. But the Chinese will not keep it quiet. The border dispute will never keep it quiet. So 3,500 long border will never keep it quiet. So as long as Tibet issue is not solved, border incursions will continue, because in 1962, they entered through Galwan Valley. And they're entering again. Same chapter being, replayed again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the main bone of contention is that this incursion doesn't take place, and this is not the Indo-China border, as we mentioned. It should be the Indo-Tibet border. Tibet agenda should be pushed forward. Tibet should be the core issue, and that will be the real threat towards a lasting solution. Thank you very much, Dr. Lafsan Sangay, for being with us. Namaskar, and we will also come back to you later once again for your wonderful thoughts on your community and your government.
Thank you very much, Avijit Majumdar ji. Good to be on your show. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.